Yeah. So Credo is a company that I founded in actually its first iteration was February 2013. So it's been 9 years now. I was working for an agency in New York City and was doing some consulting on the side. And basically, long story short, had gotten some raises and didn't need the money anymore. And was 28 years old, single, living in Brooklyn, spending 2 weekends a month in my apartment doing work for clients for money that I didn't need. And so decided I was going to stop doing that. And, told them kind of mid-November-ish, I set December 31st of that year to stop. And so I started getting the question, well, who should I work with, right? If you're not doing this anymore, who should I work with? And so I just started kind of pinging my friends and being like, hey, have this client that I'm getting rid of, can you do this work? And they're like, yep, absolutely. Can you make the intro? Sure. And so I was just doing it for free. And it actually worked out really well because I did stop into that year. And actually it was 2013. And I stopped end of 2012 consulting. And 3 weeks later, I met my now wife. So I actually had time to date her and hang out with her and all that. But in February of that year, got in a lead that a friend that was in a friend's agency's like hometown in Utah. So I pinged my buddy Brandon. I'm like, hey man, I got in this lead. They're right down the street from you. Would you be willing to pay $50 for the intro? He goes, yeah. What's your PayPal? 3 minutes later, I had $50 my PayPal account. Made the intro to him. He closed the work, made thousands of dollars. I went and bought a domain name and threw it up on some shared hosting that I had. So it was a side project for a few years. And then I got laid off from my job at Zillow within Zillow Group at September 2015 and decided to work for myself. So basically what Credo does is we help companies find the right digital agency to work with, primarily digital marketing, SEO, content, Facebook ads, Google ads, that sort of thing. And increasingly more like people looking for development help, right? Because like marketing, development, design all kind of go in together. And we have agencies that do all of that, some full service, some specialized. And we take a high touch approach to helping people figure out what do they need? What are they looking for? What's their budget? All that sort of stuff. And then we actually introduce them to the right agencies within our network. So we built our own custom software where we connect them up. So we'll create a project form. We'll bring the agencies onto their project and we'll actually schedule the client with the agencies as well for those introductory phone calls. So that's what we do. We also have a kind of a more like automated, self-serve option as well, if companies prefer that. But yeah, that's basically what we do. We've helped 6,500 plus companies in the last, really since 2015, honestly, because before that there wasn't much. I wasn't working on it much. So since 2015. Generated over $250 million, so $250 million with a B in digital marketing leads in that time. And we've made agencies over $50 million that we've directly tracked. So there's probably been a lot more that we haven't tracked, but we can directly track over $50 million in revenue for agencies since 2015.
And do you monetize with just kind of a referral or a kickback fee on like a per deal basis? Like a company comes in, hires us, you take that 5-10% or whatever that is upon the deal closing, or is it like so that's a membership or?
It's both. So on our, so we kind of have levels of agencies, as I said. So we have what we call our network, which is our larger set of agencies, like 110 agencies, something like that have all applied. We've vetted them out. We've approved them. They've joined. And so that's a free membership. And then they can buy basically leads on a per lead basis, kind of depending on how much contact information we have and whether we spoke with them, right? So if we've spoken with them and there's an email and a phone, it's worth more than someone that we haven't spoken with that there's just an email, right? But we do also vet those out. We approve those manually, where people can't just come in and spam us. And then we have a membership on that level as well. So it's currently $329 a month if you pay per month, or $249 a month if you pay quarterly. And that gets you access to all of those leads. And then our top agencies, mostly full service agencies, right? Full service digital agencies, they're paying us anywhere from $1,700 to $5,000 a month as a retainer. So we're basically, we call it sales pipeline. So we're generating them sales pipeline. And then they also pay us a commission on the back end when they close. So we're actually monetizing the lead itself, which takes some risk off of our plate and kind of balances the risk between us and the agency. And then we basically get compensated when the agency closes as well, because that's obviously worth a lot more, to them. And then we're able to go and reinvest in growth. So I've run 4 or 5 different models with this business. The first one was actually a 10% of a closed project for the first 3 months, which was terrible because I was building in 100% churn every 3 months. It was awful. Right. And also 10%, like that's crazy. So
well, that's the model that we
now,
use. Most agencies do that as like a referral fee, right? Like that's why I asked about that is like when there's a problem, you hit on something, and I don't even know if you deliberately did this, but there was like this disparate space of most agencies growing through referrals, right? Like that's a common thing you hear. We just get referrals and word of mouth. And that's such a typical rate. It's like 10% initial contract, 10% of the first 3 months. So it's like you consolidated a lot of that and then built a better model based on that.
Well, and here's the reason why I actually hate that model. From my perspective as a business owner in this space, it's impossible for me to build a scalable business on that model, that like straight referral model. Also, then as an entrepreneur myself, right? So I assume there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this. I am then putting my revenue in someone else's hands, someone that I can't train, that isn't like that. Yes, they're incentivized because they want to grow their business, but entrepreneurs are stubborn as hell, right? So they're not going to listen to me. I've done so much sales training with people, and the people that have actually listened have substantially grown their business. Like our top agency on Credo, for 3-4 years ago, they got in touch and they're like, hey, we feel like we're struggling to close leads. Can you help us out? I hopped on a call for 2 hours with them, took them through the sales training that I have, that I sell on Credo. It's called our accelerator course. They have gone from $700,000 a year to this year. They've acquired some other agencies along the way, but this year that agency itself is going to do $5.6 million in revenue, 8x in 3 years. And guess where that trajectory changed? I'm not taking credit for all of it, but their trajectory changed when I taught them how to sell. So like that worked out well, but for the most part, like agencies, especially marketing agencies, are really bad at sales. They don't invest in sales training, right? And so like it was impossible to build a business just off of that because someone else was controlling my revenue. So hard lesson learned, but also that model is bad for agencies because you don't get anything consistent. You're taking the crumbs. You're getting what other people don't want. Is literally what it is. So, if you actually want to grow, you actually want to invest in growth, you should pay someone up front to go and generate those leads for you. And if the performance isn't there, well, that's the same thing as clients hiring you, right? They're not like, you're not just taking a percentage of like revenue based off of growth that you get for them, right? They're actually paying you for your time. So we're kind of doing the agency model as well, but we're also getting a percentage on the back end from agencies. So, I know that agencies prefer the referral model. They prefer like just the 10%. Why wouldn't they? There's no risk to you, right? I'm taking on all the risk, but then I also don't have the revenue necessarily to invest in growth to be able to get you more work, to make you more money so that then you can pay me more money so we can invest in more growth, right? It's a virtuous cycle. So that's why I don't run that model. And why I actually think it's bad for agencies to like just rely on that. Plus like, it's not a scalable channel, right? One of your partners gets bought and all of a sudden that, entrepreneur that you were buddies with way back in the day that was sending you all these leads and he's no longer in that business, guess what? Your lead flow is gone.
So would you recommend, Credo is obviously like you built this to solve this problem, but I get pitched all the time on LinkedIn, like these SDR agencies will 10x your leads, for agency growth and all that stuff. Is that the kind of thing that you're... Yeah, guaranteed. They must be doing something right. There's so many of them, right? Is that a valid approach? Like you're recommending maybe hiring some sort of an SDR, BDR, somebody who can prospect and get you leads in the door, and then the closing process that maybe the founder still, that maybe like somebody you hire, but like, is that like a valid approach to agency growth? You're saying like maybe like decouple it from the marginal 10%, hit to your margins on a referral and actually go out and source your own leads. Like Credo's one way. Is that kind of like outbound way, another way, or how would you think about that?
Yeah. So I think in frameworks, and I actually have a framework for this one. So to me, I call it the ladder of lead generation. So when you're starting off an agency, a service business, any sort of service business, bottom rung is referrals. Referrals are great, right? You get started there. That's where you get your first customers. Then you have to go to your own channels, right? So SEO, content, podcasts, that sort of thing, right? So you're building up your name and you're starting to get people coming in that you don't necessarily know. But you basically learn how to sell them, you learn how to onboard them, you learn how to fulfill it, that sort of stuff. Then the next level is paid. So Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, like that sort of stuff, because that's a different level of someone That's a different level of qualification right there, right?
Mhm.
They're a little bit colder. They were maybe in the market, or they saw you on Facebook, or they saw you on YouTube, and they're interested and they contact, but they're not quite sure, right? So it's a different kind of sales process there. And then finally is the accelerants of. So once you've kind of learned how to sell across those three, referral, owned / organic, and paid, then at the top is what I call the accelerants. So it's companies like Credo. It's these, BDR agencies that you're talking about. I actually, for me, BDR, business development rep, is outbound. SDR is inbound and qualifying inbound. So they're queuing up, they're qualifying leads that are coming in inbound, ads, organic, et cetera, and queuing them up for a closer and an account executive, right? That at an agency under about 15 people is usually the founder and should be the founder.
Yeah.
Once you get about 12 to 15 people is where I see agencies start hiring closers, account executives. And that's actually where I see a lot of agencies stall out because they fail to hire well there. But yes, I do think that, LinkedIn, that sort of stuff can be a great channel for agencies. It doesn't work for Credo simply because we're not selling like ongoing recurring work to clients, right? We're basically monetizing that lead one time and, introducing them to multiple people. So like we make on a project that we introduce to agencies, we make $1,200 to $1,500, something like that. But like, if I'm paying $300 for a call, or $500 for a call, $600 for a call, right? And then like, 1 in 2, 1 in 3 is actually qualified, right? Like I'm upside down before you even get them introduced. So it doesn't work for us, but if you're like selling especially if you're selling high ticket, ongoing retainers, that you can retain people for a long time, your profit margins in it, that sort of thing. I've seen it work really, really well. I know some agencies that have just doubled down on it and it's just, they've blown it out of the water. So it can work well. But it can be hit or miss kind of depending on your model. But if you're an agency, it can be a good model for you.